This is your wake-up call.
Quietly, in a number of laboratories, an astounding technology is developing that directly connects the human brain to a computer. It's like a sudden leap in human evolution, a leap that could one day help paralyzed people to walk again and amputees to move bionic limbs.
Quietly is right. The researchers have been working on realizing brain-computer interface devices for decades. The research has a relatively low presence in mainstream media. Most news coverage of this subject has been confined to technology journalism circles.
Brain-computer interface technologies allow humans to interact with computers without using intermediaries like hands, fingertips, keyboards, and mouses. Carefully placed electrodes, either on the skull or the brain itself, carry information directly from the human cranium to the computer.
It's a new technology. We're putting man-made devices in biological tissue.
So it makes sense, then, that the news circulating about BCI has been confined to specialized spheres. As technology companies began to meet the demands of the BCI industry, stories arose in technology news publications like Wired, Electronics Now, and Popular Mechanics. These stories focus on the most recent creations of companies like Cyberkinetics Incorporated, NeuroSky, and Emotive.
In keeping with the context of these publications, that is, their technology-based contents and tech-savvy audiences, such stories assume the guise of a science fiction fantasy. A typical example is Vision Quest, a 2002 article in Wired that tells the tale of an experiment gone awry. Journalist Stephen Kotler writes the scientist of interest, Dr. William Dobler, a crazed and eccentric modern-day Dr. Frankenstein, obsessed with fusing mind and machine. Kotler also gives the research subject, whose name is revealed to be Jans, the moniker Patient Alpha, for nothing but sci-fi flair.
More recent articles, too, mimic classic science fiction stories. Take, for instance, Gary Stick's Scientific American article, entitled Jacking into the Brain. In the article, Sticks references the William Gibson classic Johnny Mnemonic and wonders, besides controlling a computer cursor or robot arm, will the technology somehow actually enable the brain's roughly 100 billion neurons to function as a clandestine repository for pilfered industrial espionage data, or another element borrowed from Gibson? The body of Stick's article is based on real-world applications, but the science fiction speculations resonate more strongly with readers. This is further seen when Sticks talks to New Hampshire Public Radio's word-of-mouth host, Virginia Prescott, about his report. Prescott says,
"Sounds like science fiction."
And,
"Well, let's take this out of the realm of a cyberpunk fantasy for a moment."
Prescott even suggests the same implications of BCI that science fiction writers have postulated for decades.
What about using the technology not just therapeutically, but for human enhancement? Is that conceivable? I mean, could I download 1001 French verbs into my brain before going to Paris?
Audiences, too, react.
But I also wonder, if you can take data out of the brain, can you put data back in?
Gary Sticks answers responsibly.
What Steve was mentioning was putting information back into the brain. And there really are no ethical concerns right now because nobody knows how to do that. If that were possible, and it's not now, there would be very obvious ethical concerns of mind control.
But the speculation still remains. The science fiction theme took on a new angle when BCI companies began to produce technologies that could be used for video games. Now, in addition to predicting the advent of Isaac Asimov's Bicentennial Man, journalists can also evoke the battle stories of Orson Scott Card's Ender's series. In July of this year, Emotive Systems, a company that develops video games using BCI, was featured in Discovery Channel's technology segment entitled Where Virtual Meets Reality. This 1.5-minute segment's main visual focus is the mysticism of the video game. The changing audience for BCI is evident by the Discovery Channel's choice to pick up the story, as well as the amount of time talked about the technology itself, only 5 seconds. It is only at the very end that the narrator mentions the possibility of this technology applied to biomedical purposes. Over the last 8 or 9 years, science fiction-like articles and videos reported on the latest creations in the BCI industry. But human interest stories were very rare. Very seldomly did reporters focus on biomedical applications. Of course, only 9 people so far have received brain implant prostheses, but even so, speculation about medical use was low.
In 2007, PBS aired a documentary called 22nd Century. The show is rife with science fiction tropes and cliches, haunting music, computer graphics, and holograms. It was even co-hosted by Aldous Huxley himself.
As memory serves, I'm dead.
Well, an imitation of the Brave New World author, at least.
Though the video uses many of the same features as previous and even later sci-fi reports, this is one of the first to suggest medical purposes. Enter Eric Ramsey. Despite the dramatic and futuristic cinematography, this segment of the episode Worldwide Mind is a human interest story.
He had just gotten off from work and they went to a movie. A lady was making a U-turn and they hit her, and then they flipped over and went end to end and landed on several pine trees.
Since Eric had been utilizing BCI technology for a few years, it is probable that he entered the media this late because of differences in audiences. Before 22nd century, readers and viewers were largely focused on technology, but PBS's audiences were more general.
A similar case is a 2007 ABC 6 report. Reporter Suzanne Pajot's story about Cyberkinetics' brain-gate interface focuses on Matthew Nagel's story, but also uses science fiction features, including a Twilight Zone score.
Right out of the Twilight Zone, something that was impossible until now. He's actually moving this computer cursor simply by thinking about it.
These personalized cases have become increasingly popular in the last few months and have reached less specialized audiences. In October, Eric Ramsey's story was even featured in Esquire magazine.
On November 2, 2008, 60 Minutes ran a story on brain-computer interfaces. This report probably reached the most diverse audiences to date. As such, Scott Pelley framed his story around a number of compelling human interest stories, beginning with the poster child of BCI, Scott Mackler. Mackler is perhaps the most successful victim of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. He is a practicing researcher at the University of Pennsylvania's Mahoney Institute of Neurological Sciences. Mackler communicates with a brain-computer interface system.
Scott Pelley uses Mackler to explain the scientific principles underlying BCI technology. Interestingly, Pelley's report probably discusses the science behind the BCI more than any other article.
The rest of the report expands its focus to other BCI technologies and includes other cases. Pelley talks with various researchers and leaves viewers hopeful about future biomedical advances.
Although science fiction themes still remain in BCI journalism, Pelley's report shows that progress in the technology fosters a new focus on applicability and maybe better scientific explanations.
The weapon system is one of the most advanced ever conceived, with a thought-guided, thought-controlled arsenal on board the plane.
Paste it, save it, load it, check it, quick rewrite it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip unzip it, lock it, fill it, call it, find it, view it, code it, jump and lock it, surf it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch, update it, name it, read it, tune it, print it, scan it, send it, fax, rename it, touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, turn it, leave it, stop, format it. Technologic.
The followers of Scratch use the brainwave control device on this new game console to scan their own brainwaves using a program created by their leader, Londes. A program that is said to copy their spirit, which is transformed from brainwaves into digital data and relayed onto the universal network where it takes on a transcendent level of being, thus allowing them to exist as souls without bodies.
Precognizy of murder 4 days out. Why do they call?
Well, we call it a red ball. The crimes of passion is no premeditation, so they show up late. Most of our scandals are flash events like this one. We rarely see anything with premeditation anymore.
Write it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip and zip it, touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, turn it, leave it, stop, format it. Touch it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch, update it. Surf it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch, update it, name it, read it, tune it, print it, scan it, send it, fax, rename it, touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, turn it, leave it, stop, format it, buy it, use it, break it, fix it.